After trying everything with no real results, Rapid NeuroFascial Reset. Was this the difference? Fast, intense, and effective. In one session, rib reset, shoulder, jaw clicking stopped, knee tension eased, back arch improved, and full body mobility jumped. Immediate relief. That's just one testimony of many I could share. Today, we're diving into something that flips the usual pain story on its head. Rapid NeuroFascial Reset. This isn't a rub the muscle and hope session. It's nervous system first that targets the body's control room, using precise input along the bone line to help the system reset and come back online. The big idea? Pain patterns often aren't just tissue problems, they're stuck signals. And when those signals shift, the body can change fast. We'll talk what it is, what it feels like, why inflammation isn't always the villain, and why people swear by the results. Folks, meet my buddy, Kevin Kooger. I'm here with Kevin, a good friend who has helped me heal, and I want to share what that's all about. Let's start out with the company name, because I'm getting the company name mixed up with what you actually do. So go ahead, give me the heads up here on what this is. You started in massage and said, okay, that's an answer, that does help out, but you wanted to do the deep dive, went further, and thank God you did, because the results are incredible. We're going to talk about this and just uncover what's going on.
Yeah, so the name of my company is Rapid Pain Solutions.
Okay.
The name of the modality and the name of the company that the amazing couple, Rob and Sherry Rutledge from Alberta, Canada, they're the ones that created this.
Yeah.
And their company and the name of this modality is called Rapid NeuroFascial Reset.
So neural fascia release, but maybe you can break down that part right there. Muscle, neural fascia. What's going on there? Because I don't think most people know. They go to a massage therapist, it feels good, and then it goes away. But what happens here is I had an injury 12 years ago. Within 2 sessions, it was like, I don't know if I ripped, tore, or whatever. You don't even know it was 12 years ago, right? But whatever happened, 2 sessions changed it. And I'm a therapy freak, and I've done all kinds of different things to try and get, and I've, re-injured hockey, this, that, whatever. But we are going to basically break down what went on there, why this works. So neural fascia, what does that mean beyond muscle?
Well, first and foremost, I want to emphasize that, as you already mentioned, I started off as a pretty aggressive deep tissue massage therapist.
Okay.
So I in no way through any of this kind of explanation am I bashing anyone. Some of my best friends are still registered massage therapists that do more typified massage. One of my best friends is a chiropractor, so I'm not bashing anyone.
Right.
This is just a different modality, and it really targets very, very different things. So even when we talk about fascia, the reason we even mention fascia as much as we do is simply because fascia itself is so neurologically dense. So again, this is not to bash anyone else, this is just different ways of looking at it. So typically when someone goes to get their body worked on, they're going to go to a massage therapist, a osteopath, let's say, or most physiotherapists. They're really going to focus pretty heavily on the muscular system. So that's going to include the muscles. Some people focus on the fascia, some people don't. There's a bit of a weird divide that some people like it, some people don't. But if you typically look at going to a chiropractor, they're going to focus a lot on manipulating the skeletal system. They think in terms of the nervous system and as far as their approach, but they're really focusing on manipulating the skeletal system in the sense that they'll work anywhere, but their bread and butter, as most people know, is working on the spinal column.
Absolutely.
Right? Whereas with Rapid NeuroFascial Reset, and what I specialize in is really focused almost primarily on manipulating the nervous system. So that's why we get the kind of results we get, because it's kind of a strange thing because all of us, even if you have no medical training whatsoever, we all remember that day, whenever it was, like in grade 9 or something like that, when they taught us the basics of how the body works, that we know that if I want my arm to come up like this, that it's my brain sending a signal along my nervous system, and it's my nervous system that creates tension in my bicep. As that tension increases, my arm is going to come up. As that tension increases more, my arm's going to come up more. So we all know that it's the nervous system that creates that tension. And yet when people have too much tension in their body, or they have pain in their body, and they go to get their body worked on, most of the people that are working on your body actually don't think in terms of the nervous system, even though we all know it's the nervous system that controls all that, and obviously it's the nervous system that translates those pain signals to our brain. So because we know that it's the nervous system, from our framework, it just makes the most sense to focus more on manipulating the nervous system than it does to manipulate the muscle tissue itself.
Okay, so that makes sense. I have this pain, you move around, it might feel a little bit like it's muscle that you're moving, but you're actually not. You're not going to the muscle, you're going along the bone line. And what actually happens when we'll walk through an example here. I play guitar, a lot of fingerstyle guitar. You have worked on, and I say, well, sometimes it gets numb, and then you do something what happens? It releases, and we can even kind of show that. But
the easiest explanation is if, for instance, someone has too much tension, or they have pain in their bicep. The only reason I would even touch the bicep is literally to move it out of the way, so that I can easily access the bone underneath, because the layer of tissue that we're going for is the layer of tissue that's known as periosteum. Periosteum is the most one of the most neurologically types of tissue that we have access to in the body. So it's a literal virtual gold mine of consistent way of accessing the nervous system and being able to manipulate the nervous system.
So getting away from the muscle, you move the muscle, and is that then fascia up against the bone, which is kind of a network of communication? Is that?
Yeah, periosteum is a little different from fascia, but it's very similar in that way. We're purposely trying to access the periosteum so that when we're accessing it, we're going to have people go through a range of motion. Typically, sometimes we're gonna not have them move, and we'll just do the movement ourselves. But in most cases, through rapid neurofascial reset, we're going to have access to the periosteum, and we're going to have the client move that muscle tissue, which allows us to have the amazing results that we've been getting.
And where does substance P, because this is very related to your field, where does that come in this story?
So what is really happening here is that we are accessing the periosteum in order to create what's called a noxious stimuli. So noxious just meaning bad, but it's very, very targeted, precise, and although when you're getting the treatment it doesn't always feel this way, it's actually a very, very light touch on the periosteum, but that creates the noxious stimuli. So anytime someone has way too much tension in their body, or they're feeling pain, by definition your nervous system is going to be elevated. And when your nervous system is exposed to this noxious stimuli, when it experiences this noxious stimuli, which is essentially a form of very, very precise controlled trauma for the nervous system essentially self-medicates, as strange as that sounds, because what happens is the nervous system will use mechanoreceptors in the body to release that substance P, as you referred to, which is just a peptide, a naturally occurring peptide in the body, and that peptide has a lot of great benefits for the body, but the most important thing that we focus on is the fact that it's neuroprotective, which essentially means, as I already mentioned, the nervous system is kind of self-medicating, because when your nervous system is elevated and it's exposed to this substance P, it literally returns to baseline, essentially, is the goal. And we always say returns to baseline because there is going to be times, for instance, when people often come to me and they'll be like, I don't know what's going on when I'm exercising, but my right glute just doesn't feel like it's firing properly, right? So we go through the exact same kind of technique, but in that case, what we're doing is we're actually activating your nervous system, because your nervous system is perhaps a little dysregulated, and it's perhaps a bit depleted as far as how it's responding. So therefore, that muscle is not engaged properly. So again, when it's exposed to that substance P through the noxious stimuli, the nervous system is once again returned to baseline. So now that muscle is now essentially turned back on. The dysregulation is removed.
Okay, so it's almost, in doing that, it releases some type of fertilizer, some type of miracle grow that then ends up to the nervous system, but it's not feeding itself into the muscle. It's being released, substance P, but where's it being released that it actually does affect the nervous system? How is
well,
that?
it's being released by the nervous system using mechanoreceptors in the body. So it's literally just essentially squirting out substance P.
Yeah.
That's why after a treatment, it's very, very, very counterproductive for anyone to rub the area or to get any kind of a massage or anything like that, or to take anything that would be considered like any kind of an anti-inflammatory, because the other thing that's going to happen to your body during one of these treatments is it causes the body to have what would be typically called a cascading inflammatory response, which is what we want, right?
Okay.
So we want inflammation in the body because inflammation is a way for the body to heal itself. It's part of the healing cycle. So anytime you put ice on your body because of an injury or something like that, or you take an anti-inflammatory, you're literally inhibiting your body from effectively going through the natural healing cycle, which is obviously the opposite of what we want. There's people who still take that, and unfortunately there's a lot of doctors and some physiotherapists that still prescribe to that RICE protocol, RICE, rest, ice, compression, elevation, which is totally old and debunked.
So
and
no
everything
ice
like
on injuries in 24 hours, first 24 hours, you're not at all.
No, that whole protocol was invented in 1978 by Dr. Merkin from Harvard. And it was really more of a theory than anything else, based on my review of the science and what we've been taught. But since then, there's been tons of science that has refuted that original theory, and to the point where, thankfully, some of that science was done by Dr. Merkin himself, to the point where in 2014, and again I believe in 2015, he was published in the American Journal of Sports Medicine, a very renowned medical journal, literally essentially saying, like, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And we shouldn't be using that protocol. And then he instituted a different protocol, but essentially rest, ice, compression, elevation, all four of those things are meant to inhibit inflammation. And as he clearly states in his research, and many other people have verified that as well, that again, inflammation is part of the healing cycle. And when we eliminate that inflammation, we're holding back the body's natural processes as far as the healing process goes.
So, in a nutshell, stay away from the ice, let the body simply do what it needs to do during an injury. Is there anything you want to add to what comes to you, but anything else to an injury that you would add instead of rice? Rice pudding?
Well, there's another protocol called peace, and there's another one called love, and there's different protocols that are moving away from the ice and anti-inflammatory state. But the truth is, you just literally do the opposite of what rice is. Instead of rest, you want movement. Instead of ice, it's better to not put anything on it or put some heat on it. Instead of compression, you should just let the body heal. And elevation, again, is just not necessary because you want movement, right? So the other thing to keep in mind is that there's a lot of people who kind of use these two separate terms interchangeably as if they're the same thing, and they're totally not, which is the difference between inflammation and swelling. So you're specifically talking about injury, so that's why I'm talking about this. So when you have inflammation is again, it's part of the healing cycle. Inflammation in itself is a cycle. So I injure my elbow, and my body is going to bring all kinds of beautiful little enzymes and stuff like that to that area to promote healing immediately. But it's also going to take things that would be under kind of like a classification of medical artifacts, trash and toxic soup, essentially, which is a negative way of looking at it, that is around that area that we don't want there, that we want the body to flush out. And then it's going to bring in more good stuff, take out more bad stuff, bring in more good stuff, take out more bad stuff. So inflammation is a cycle, whereas swelling is when that fluid is coming there and the fluid continues to come there, but something has arrested or stopped the body's natural ability to take that bad stuff out. So you start getting more and more and more of a ballooning effect.
That's where they put ice on, to try and get rid of that.
That's the thinking behind it. But the truth is, the most effective way of getting rid of swelling is to force the body to initiate a new healing cycle of inflammation, rather than taking an anti-inflammatory, or instead of taking ice or something which inhibits the inflammation.
And that's just doing the protocols you talked about.
Yeah, I've had many people come to me who, for instance, have twisted their ankle or something like that, or sprained their ankle, and they come to me and their ankle is ballooned up. And I've actually even done that to myself. And then I just use these techniques, these rapid techniques on myself. And within minutes, you can literally see the swelling itself go down. And the swelling is going down because I'm influencing the body to restart a nice healing cycle of inflammation.
Interesting. So who's this for? Who is going to come to you? I know people are coming from Montreal and the States and whatnot because they haven't seen results, but who's coming to you? I'm thinking of sports people. I'm thinking of men low back. I'm thinking of women of all that. Who is this for? What type of, is it just injuries? Is it, what is it? Who are you seeing?
The truth is that this is an ideal technique for anyone who has pain. Virtually anyone who has pain. There's shocking statistics that there's at least, it's difficult to pin this down exactly for sure, but there's at least 20% of the population that would be included in the category of having chronic pain. That's shocking.
Wow.
There's about 12% of the population that gets at least one migraine a month, minimum.
So you've had success with migraines?
Oh, amazing. I can't fix everything. This isn't a magic thing. But there's certain things, like I, as you already know, I have tinnitus. So tinnitus is one of those things that, yes, we can treat, but it has a very, very low success rate, because for some people like me, the reason I have tinnitus is more likely due to irresponsibility and stupidity as a kid because I was listening to too much loud music, going to too many concerts, and doing all kinds of different things that I should have been wearing ear protection for, but I wasn't, right? So I have that constant ringing tinnitus in my ears. So that has a very low success rate for us, because some people have that because of the nervous system and how it's responding in and around the ears. So I have treated people with tinnitus, and in 1 or 2 treatments, the tinnitus is gone, which is amazing. But from my experience, that's pretty rare. But going back to migraines, we love treating migraines because the truth is, there's very, very, very little that anyone can really do to help migraines. But this is very, very successful. To this point, I've never actually had anyone come to me with a migraine who left with a migraine. So within 1 treatment, you can at least eliminate the migraine. For some people, it can literally become essentially like a migraine cure. For a lot of people, it's going to drastically reduce how many migraines they get. And then when they do get another migraine, they know where they can go to get rid of it.
So obviously for me, I mean, lots of different things, and checking out my body and seeing which leg is longer and not, and torso being all twisted and whatnot. The big one is whatever that muscle is there that in the butt that has been there, and I mean, I can do all my sports and stuff like that, but I just feel it. But that one was the night and day difference. So as far as someone's listening to this and they're like, yeah, I got an injury. Whatever that is, do you want to speak to injury in general, or it's basically what you just said?
There's again, this is now a very difficult number to tag down, but there's about 10% of the population, 10 to 12% of the population that at least once a year gets a debilitating injury in the sense that they can't continue back to their regular activities right away. So for most of those injuries, we can get rid of that pain and discomfort very, very, very quickly. And depending on the injury, we're not going to tell people, yeah, you can go back to life as usual when you've fractured your tibia. So there's going to be certain things that do need to heal, but we can at least remove a vast majority, if not all, of the pain. Right? And then people can continue to go through their regular day-to-day lives and let their body heal in the process, because again, we're not a big promoters of rest. It's not necessary for healing. Right? So people who get injuries, it's a very, 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 very good thing for them. People, like, as I already mentioned, people with chronic pain, people with migraines, 10% of the population has incontinence, which is something, again, not a lot of solutions for. You can go to a pelvic floor physio.
Yeah, there's some good things there. Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff that they promote, Kegels are bad. Stop doing Kegels. But for most people, that's why the success rate is very, very low. But for instance, there's an amazing group of physiotherapists in the Ottawa region, and a lot of those physiotherapists are pelvic floor physios, and they just love taking these courses because they see a drastic increase in the success rate that they're having with their clients because of these techniques and because of how the nervous system is involved there.
Some men ask me, we're talking men 50, 60, 70, about night urination. So does that fall into that?
Yeah, it can. And it's one of those things, like we had a non-formal study, if you will, a non-formal vote essentially on what would a man, how bad would something have to get for a man to talk to another man or even their family doctor about incontinence. And literally most men's response would be, I would prefer death. I'm just not going to talk about that, which is strange. But we know it's a massive problem because anyone can go to Walmart, for instance, and you can go down the aisle for adult diapers. And you can see what's going on, right? That a third of those products are for men. Right? And the product selection is massive. It's like almost a whole aisle dedicated to adult diapers. Why is this considered just a normal thing? Right? So it's not a normal thing. It's not even necessarily age related. It's because, in this case, of a core dysfunction, not a weakness in your core, but because of a core dysfunction. And when it comes to core dysfunction, when it comes to muscular dysfunction, that's what this modality is just an expert at. We're correcting neurological and muscular dysfunction
that affects how men urinate. That's so interesting. I mean, there's so many ways to
there's actually
discuss and talk about this, but it's huge.
The interesting side effect of that, which is something that may hopefully eventually open up the discourse in talking about this and open up perhaps men's willingness or desire to talk about that, is that not only does it help incontinence, but it can also help
where you're going.
Erectile dysfunction.
And that we'll get into that at another date. We'll keep you guys guessing.
It's an unintended
I think I
side
understand where that might be coming from some of the functional medicine kind of things.
Yeah.
So this has been great. I guess the last thing, just so what I want people, I think people ask me the question that, well, like, what is it? Like, is it massage? And it's like, no, it's not massage. So on camera here, if I'm coming to you and saying, well, I play guitar and these fingers get a little bit numb, and this is a true story, where whatever Kevin does, it releases something and then it's like gone. Now, massage, that can help for a day or two, but it comes back. When I tell you that, do you want to give an example of where you go or what you're looking for so they have an idea of what it looks like?
Yeah, there's a number of things that could contribute to the kind of issue that you're talking about. But to simplify it, we'll change lanes a little bit just to talk about, because what you felt me working on was a lot of that was on the elbow, right?
Yeah.
But it's more common for people to think about, for instance, golfer's elbow or tennis elbow.
Right.
It's literally just translates to lateral or medial epicondylitis. So literally all we're doing in this case is we would be feeling a lot. I'll do it this way so the camera can actually see, but I'll actually more. So I'm literally going to be feeling in and around the condyle to feel for what we would consider a adhesion, and then we're going to have you shorten, and you're going to feel me go in, and
you're not pushing.
Such
it
little
can
pressure.
feel like he's got big pipes on him, like he's doing every type of power squeeze he can put into me. But
no, I'm literally barely touching you.
Yeah. So what is it that's going on that sends a heavy pain receptor? Because I've got to be honest, there can be some pain involved here, but it's it's a no pain no gain, because when you walk out, you're in heaven.
So I'm literally using the bony part of my thumb, which is the interphalangeal joint, which is just called the IP typically. So my IP is feeling around your condyle, so that's bony structure on your elbow, and I am just feeling around for a lump, bump, any kind of a physical abnormality that
not
really
muscle,
shouldn't
not the muscle.
No, it's right on the bone.
Yeah.
So then once I feel that, and I can just wiggle down to the point where there's
something
essentially bone on bone contact, and then you straighten. And then when I go back to try and feel for that adhesion, in most cases that adhesion is just gone.
Wow.
Right? Because in any situation when you have fascia or anything in and around the periosteum, if you imagine your shirt being like this and twisted,
that's what's going on.
That's what's going on with an adhesion or any kind of neurological dysfunction that could be happening in order so that your nervous system wouldn't be operating properly. So I'm going in, I'm finding those areas, and we're just clearing them up, because once the substance P is released in that area, then all of that
goes
just
back
smooths right out. And then when I come back and feel, it's
it already feels like, it's like, do this arm, because it feels super loose, right? And that's not fascia you're talking about.
No, it's specifically periosteum, but it's a very similar kind of tissue, but it's on the bone.
And fascia is where?
On the muscles and organs. Most of our organs have fascia on them.
This is
on fascia. The bone. Fascia is the thin but tough, but most importantly, very neurologically dense tissue that's on the outside of our bones on the outside of our muscles and organs. And it's literally what causes as long as it's very hydrated, which it needs to be.
Right.
One of the reasons why our bodies have to stay hydrated is because we want our fascia to be hydrated.
So we have better communication within that network. Yeah.
Correct. Another one of the great side effects of this technique is the fact that it does, through the cascading inflammatory response of the body, it literally nourishes and hydrates your fascia even more. So it makes things even better, slicker and smoother for us. Yeah. That's why there's so many people who, even after one treatment, they get up and they just feel different. They just feel looser, and they just feel, a lot of people say they feel lighter, and some of that is literally just because we've straightened out so many things in their neurology, and obviously that's going into feelings in the brain, but it's an amazing experience that really gives people just tremendous results. Again, that's one of the lines that I use with a lot of people, is there's really no one who comes to me or goes to any rapid therapist for that matter because they enjoy the treatment.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's literally because they love the results.
At the end of that, Now, some of it feels like, that does feel really good, like in a crazy kind of painful way, but some of it can be, wow, that's crazy pain. Is that just me because I'm not tight, or no, that's just in general? But some of
Yeah.
it can feel like, oh, that actually feels like, especially certain areas like neck and stuff like that. It just opens so much up. And for me, it's, well, I was telling you, my Atlas, my chiropractor, said, like, it's crazy how tight that was. And between you and him, things are good. Is that me that has that area that's so tight, or is that just in general?
In general, it's going to be pretty rare for anyone to go through any kind of an assessment. Not everyone needs this.
Yeah.
We specifically want to target people who have pain. Literally, when you look at those numbers, like that 20% of the population has chronic pain. I'm not wasting my time looking for just the random person. Oh,
Yeah.
let me check your body, see
Yeah.
if I can find something wrong with it. The
yeah.
people who are coming to me are the people who have pain and are sick of having pain,
Yeah.
right? I think I already told you this story before, but a woman who had literally chronic low back pain for almost 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons I love that story is the fact that her husband, a great guy, he's a doctor. They have one of those kind of relationships that are just like, is this real? Like, you guys seem to love each other too much. Like, they're just such a sweet couple, right?
Okay.
But he would do anything he possibly could to try and get her to have some relief and some pain-free days. And literally through the first treatment with her,
Crazy.
according to her own account, I was able to get rid of 60 to 70% of her back pain in one treatment.
Wow.
And it was so shocking to both of them that literally for her second treatment, the doctor, her husband, sat on my couch and literally watched me treating her and was bombarding me with questions like, how does this work?
Yeah.
And several times through the conversation, he kept saying, well, I just can't argue with results. Like even in the week since she's been treated, it had been like 4 or 5 days. She has slept better since you treat her than the whole time I've known her, right?
Well,
so to see those kind of results in people is shocking, and it's super rewarding for me, to be honest.
Well, yeah, and coming into my world, Joe Dispenza, he talks about the nervous system is the greatest pharmacy on the earth.
That's for sure.
And yeah, you're accessing that pharmacy in your world. It's powerful work. How can people find you? You're a pretty busy guy. He is pretty busy, hard to get in. But anyway.
Well, one of the things that keeps
I think there needs to be more people doing what you do. So maybe there'll be some massage therapists listening to this. And
on that note, people need to go to the people who invented this. Again, Rob and Sherry, they're just incredible people. And they're also extremely giving people.
Yeah.
All they want to do is share this information with people. And they don't price gouge people. They just give people I almost, from my point of view and from a business point of view, they're almost too generous.
Oh, wow.
But
Nice
they're just amazing people. And if you go to their website, which is just rapidnfr.com, Rapid NeuroFascial Reset, so rapidnfr.com, you can get lots of information about the technique itself, but you can also see on there that they have lots of courses going on all through North America.
Okay.
So we have a course coming up in Georgia that's coming up soon. We have courses that are always happening in and around the middle of Canada. Obviously, they're from Alberta, so there's lots of courses there. On the East Coast and going down to Georgia in January.
Excellent.
And going to Orlando. So there's lots of opportunity for people to have in-person courses, which really is, I believe, an important thing for people to have. But if you're not available right away for an in-person course, then they also have online courses for most of their courses that you can take to at least be able to understand the science and be able to understand the technique.
And this is for practitioners, or is this for lay people just who want to know more?
It's meant for practitioners. If a lay person wanted to spend the money to buy the course, they could go through it. But it's not. They're not teaching anatomy, and even though we don't focus on muscles per se, because we're accessing the nervous system, you still got to you have to have a pretty strong understanding of anatomy and how the muscular system and the nervous system work, even though we're just accessing the nervous system. So a lay person looking at the course, a lot of it might go over your head. There's
Right,
actually
right.
an incredible amount of science behind this. Rob and Sherry are both registered massage therapists, but Sherry herself was originally, like her educational background is she's a neuroscientist,
Oh, wow.
which is
Oh, wow.
lends directly to
Yeah.
this, and by her own account, she's a bit of a research geek, so she loves to do research,
Okay.
and she's always doing research. I forget the number that she told me, but I think there's a certain limit as to how many tabs you can have open on an iPhone. I think it's
boy.
like 500 or something like
Oh,
that, and
boy.
she typically has like
She went past.
499 or something like that, because she's constantly doing research and constantly refining the science
further.
behind this.
Okay.
So the science behind this is just incredible. That's why it really is so effective.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really complemented in my world of metabolic regen. We talk about the terrain, and it was kind of a missing point that I have added into my regime. And I mean, I find this with acupuncture and my cold plunging and my saunas and whatnot, like it really just lands well in the mind, body, spirit. So thank you, my friend.
Yeah, great talking to you, buddy.
Always good to connect,
Yeah.
and I'll be in before long. So I will send some information on this podcast for people who want to know more.